Imagine looking up at the night sky and seeing it explode. Not metaphorically, but literally. A light so bright, it turned night into day. Human history wasn't just shaped by kings and conquerors, but by fireballs, solar storms, and explosions in the sky. Some arrived without warning, wiping out entire species. Others were so bright they changed how we counted time, worshipped gods, or planned the harvest. This is Armchair Archaeology, where we trace the lasting influence of cosmic events, etched in ancient ruins, sacred myths, and the layers of Earth itself. These weren't just natural wonders. They shaped beliefs, collapsed societies, and sparked new beginnings. And they still affect us. Today, scientists monitor solar flares to protect satellites and power grids. Planetary defense teams track asteroids that might one day repeat the past. The sky hasn't stopped shaping history. It's just harder to see the patterns. Stay with us, because before this video ends, you'll hear a surprising theory that one of the most iconic religious symbols in history may have begun with a real celestial explosion. If you're enjoying this journey already, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell. Armchair Archaeology dives deep into ancient mysteries, lost technologies, and the cosmic forces that shaped our world. History is often told as a slow march of empires rising, falling, and reshaping the world. But some of its most profound turning points happened in an instant when something from the sky struck the Earth with unimaginable force. Meteor impacts didn't just scar the planet, they steered the course of life itself. The Chicxulub impact, 66 million years ago, left a crater over 180 kilometers wide in what is now Mexico. The energy released was equivalent to more than 1 billion nuclear bombs. It triggered global fires, a years-long impact winter, and the extinction of around 75% of all life on Earth, including the dinosaurs. If you were there, you would see the sky ignite, hear a roar louder than anything imaginable, and then darkness, lasting for years. But in that devastation, an opening emerged. Mammals flourished in the aftermath, setting the stage for the evolution of humans. Without that catastrophe, we might not exist at all. Other, smaller impacts occurred within human memory and shaped ancient culture. In Estonia, the Kali crater formed just a few thousand years ago. Around it, archaeologists have found Bronze Age tools, burnt bones, and signs of ritual activity. Nearby myths speak of a sun that fell to earth, scorching the land. To the people who lived nearby, it wasn't just an object, it was a god crashing to the ground. The crater may have become a sacred site, a scar in the earth-turned shrine. In Arizona, Meteor crater has long captured public imagination, but archaeological surveys suggest it may have drawn early human activity as well. Its strange geometry and burned rock lending it a mysterious, even divine, character. And today, we still monitor the sky. NASA's planetary defense teams scan for near-Earth objects that could repeat history. The threat hasn't vanished, only our understanding has evolved. Meteor impacts are a rare reminder that the boundary between heaven and earth is thinner than we'd like to believe. And sometimes, history begins with fire from above. For much of human history, comets were not seen as astronomical objects. They were omens, bringers of chaos, agents of change, streaks of divine warning cutting through the predictable order of the sky. And at times, those beliefs may have had a basis in real upheaval. In 1066, just before the Battle of Hastings, Halley's Comet appeared in the sky. To the Anglo-Saxons, it was a sign of doom. That fear was so profound, it was embroidered into the Bayeux Tapestry, a medieval visual record of England's conquest. Shortly afterward, William the Conqueror changed the course of European history. Whether coincidence or not, the comet left a cultural scar. In ancient China, imperial astronomers meticulously recorded comet sightings, not as curiosities, but as signals. Comets were believed to reflect disturbances in the cosmic order. Their appearances could prompt purges, reforms, or sacrifices. Bamboo slip records from the Han Dynasty even link specific comet passages to floods, rebellions, and political change. These records combine storytelling with early attempts at pattern recognition, a kind of mythic data science. In Mesoamerica, the Maya and other cultures tracked comet appearances using codices and complex sky models. Their calendar systems were so precise that some scholars believe long count cycles may have been influenced by rare comet returns. Today, comets are studied for the physical materials they carry, remnants from the early solar system. But their cultural impact lingers. Even in the modern era, comet appearances have sparked public anxiety, from Halley's 1910 return to apocalyptic cults in the 1990s. Comets aren't just debris, they're disruptors, and across centuries, they've shaped the way people viewed fate, time, and the invisible threads linking the sky to human destiny. Whether feared or worshipped, comets made people feel small and aware that the sky had a will of its own. If stories like this fascinate you, check out our new ebook, Secrets of the Ancient World. From mysterious comets to ancient cities lost in time. It's packed with discoveries that go even deeper than what we cover here. The link's in the pinned comment. When a supernova erupts, it doesn't just light up the night sky. It rewrites it. These cosmic explosions can burn brighter than entire galaxies, visible from Earth even in daylight. And remarkably, ancient civilizations not only witnessed them, they recorded them in ways that have survived for over 1,000 years. In 1054 CE, Chinese astronomers noted the sudden appearance of a brilliant guest star. It shone for nearly 2 years, even visible during the day for weeks. Their records are so precise that modern astronomers match them with the Crab Nebula, the expanding cloud of debris left behind by that very supernova. But the most compelling connection comes from the American Southwest. In a remote canyon near Chaco, a petroglyph carved into a rock wall shows a starburst next to a crescent moon and a handprint. On the day the 1054 supernova appeared, the moon would have looked exactly like that from that exact location. The carving might be one of the oldest visual records of a supernova ever found. Earlier still, Chinese scribes in 185 CE documented another bright star that lingered in the sky for months. It's the earliest known written account of a supernova in human history. These were not just sky-watching notes, they were part of political and philosophical systems. In Taoist cosmology, such events reflected imbalance, signals that heaven and earth were no longer aligned. Today, astronomers use supernovae to measure cosmic distances and the expansion of the universe, but the instinct to observe, record, and interpret the sky has always been with us. They didn't know the science, but they could feel the universe shifting, and they carved their ore into rock and inked it into scrolls, preserving the moment when the heavens erupted and nothing in the sky looked the same again. The sun may appear constant, but it's far from stable. It pulses with cycles of energy, flares, and long periods of quiet. These shifts can subtly and sometimes violently change the climate on Earth. For ancient civilizations whose survival depended on seasonal predictability, even small solar fluctuations could trigger collapse. One of the most dramatic examples may be Egypt's first intermediate period, around 2200 BCE. Inscriptions from this time describe famine, failing leadership, and widespread chaos. Imagine waking up to failed crops year after year, the sun weaker than before, and wondering if the gods had turned away. At the same time, tree, ring, and ice core data reveal a major global climate anomaly, what scientists call the 4.2 kilo-year event, a sudden cooling likely driven by a solar minimum or other cosmic disruption. And Egypt wasn't alone. Around the same time, the Indus Valley and Mesopotamia also experienced sharp declines. These weren't just environmental shifts, they were existential. In a world where the sun was divine, its absence could mean cosmic disorder. Which ancient civilization do you think was most affected by the changing sun? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We always love reading your theories. In Mesoamerica, prolonged droughts were seen as signs that the sun was hungry or displeased. Massive rituals and sacrifices were performed to restore balance. Centuries later, in medieval Europe, people recorded eerie red skies and seasons gone wrong. Chroniclers wrote of famines, strange atmospheric events, and failing harvests, accounts that match what we now know as solar activity dips like the Maunder Minimum, which helped usher in the Little Ice Age. And today, we still feel the sun's volatility. Solar flares can disrupt GPS, damage satellites, and overload power grids. Space weather forecasting is now as important as monitoring hurricanes or earthquakes. Ancient people didn't understand solar physics, but they noticed the patterns. Through temple alignments, myths, and crisis rituals, they responded to a star that wasn't always as steady as it seemed, and built entire systems to keep chaos at bay when the light began to fade. To those who lived beneath them, auroras weren't just lights in the sky, they were messages. Ghostly waves of red, green, and violet that shimmered across the heavens, moving without sound, but never without meaning. In high-latitude cultures, these luminous displays were woven deeply into spiritual life. The Sami people believed the auroras were spirits, or even divine watchers. Whistling at them could invite misfortune. Whistling at them was forbidden. It could draw their attention or provoke misfortune. Archaeological finds in the region, including petroglyphs etched with swirling patterns and figures under arching forms, may depict these lights as part of ritual or shamanic scenes. In North America, the Inuit of Alaska and Canada told stories of ancestral spirits playing games in the sky, tossing a walrus skull back and forth, or holding torches to light the way for the living. These myths reflected a worldview where the boundaries between earth and sky were permeable, and the aurora marked moments when that veil thinned. Auroras are typically confined to the poles, but when solar storms are strong enough, they can sweep far south. Ancient Chinese and Roman sources describe skies glowing blood red, phenomena now understood as low-latitude auroras during geomagnetic storms. These lights, seen in unfamiliar skies, were taken as omens of war, death, or divine displeasure. Today, we track auroras with space weather satellites, and people travel to the Arctic just to see them. But in ancient times, they were part of life, terrifying, beautiful, and divine. The aurora wasn't just a natural event, it was a spectacle that shaped myth, memory, and ritual. And in every flicker of light, ancient peoples saw a story, one that connected them to the spirits, the stars, and the vast unknown above. You'd see color dance across the sky, flickering red, green, and purple without a sound, but never without meaning. Long before clocks or compasses, ancient peoples looked to the sky for order. The stars, sun, and moon weren't just symbols, they were tools. Across continents, archaeological sites reveal structures aligned with celestial events. Just like we mark time with New Year's or solar eclipses, ancient people used these alignments to ground life in predictable cycles. Temperatures plummeted, glaciers returned. These alignments weren't decorative, they were intentional. functional, and sacred. Stonehenge in England is the most iconic example. On the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone, casting light into the heart of the circle. On the winter solstice, the setting sun aligns with the opposite axis. But it wasn't alone in this. In Ireland, Newgrange, built over 5,000 years ago, was designed so the rising sun of the winter solstice illuminates its inner chamber for just a few minutes each year. And here's something to consider. Some of the oldest temples weren't built for gods. They were built for the sky. In Egypt, at Nabta Playa, a circle of standing stones marks the rising of Sirius, the star whose appearance foretold the annual Nile flood. It's an early form of predictive astronomy. In Mesoamerica, the Temple of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza puts on a cosmic performance. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, sunlight creates a serpent-like shadow slithering down the staircase, symbolizing the return of the feathered serpent god. The entire structure is a celestial calendar made of light and stone. These alignments weren't just symbolic, they helped structure planting seasons, ceremonial calendars, and political power. In a world without mechanical timekeeping, the sky became the calendar, the oracle, and the law. Want to explore how ancient people used astronomy to guide daily life? Our ebook, Secrets of the Ancient World, dives into sky temples, aligned monuments, and the sacred science behind ancient timekeeping. Check it out in the pinned comment. Even today, we celebrate solstices, track planetary movements, and mark years based on solar cycles. Ancient architecture reminds us that long before telescopes, people found meaning and mastery in the movement of the stars. Not all cosmic threats arrive as fireballs. Some leave no crater, only silence, cold, and a world forever changed. Throughout history, Earth's climate has shifted abruptly, and in some cases, those shifts may have been triggered by events far beyond our atmosphere. Around 12,900 years ago, the planet was warming at the end of the last ice age. Then suddenly it reversed. Temperatures plummeted, glaciers returned. For early humans, it would have felt like the world was ending, just as it was beginning to bloom. This period, known as the Younger Dryas, lasted over 1,000 years and disrupted early human societies across the globe. One theory suggests it was caused by fragments of a comet striking North America, igniting continent-wide fires and sending dust into the atmosphere, cooling the planet. At Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, one of the world's earliest monumental sites was built right as the Younger Dryas began. Some researchers believe its carved pillars may depict star constellations or even encode the memory of the impact itself, an ancient monument doubling as a cosmic warning. Maybe these pillars weren't just art. Maybe they were memory etched in stone to warn of fire from the skies. Physical evidence supports the mystery. In Greenland's ice cores and across North American soil, scientists have discovered layers rich in platinum, an element common in meteorites, but rare on Earth's surface. The timing matches exactly with the onset of the Younger Dryas. While the comet theory remains debated, the pattern is clear. Abrupt climate change has shaped human history. And today, we face similar uncertainties, though driven by different forces. The ancients may not have understood the science, but they responded by building, migrating, adapting, and remembering. Through stories, sacred symbols, and aligned stones, they processed a global trauma we're only now beginning to decode. The next great shift may not come from the sky, but the past reminds us how fragile the balance can be and how fast it can disappear. On the morning of June 30, 1908, something exploded over the Siberian wilderness. A fireball streaked across the sky, followed by a shockwave that that flattened over 2,000 square kilometers of forest, an area larger than any modern city. Trees were blown outward in a radial pattern, animals perished, windows shattered hundreds of kilometers away. But there was no crater. For decades, the Tunguska event defied explanation. No impact site, no fragments, just scorched earth and silence. Today, most scientists believe it was caused by a small comet or asteroid that exploded in mid-air, a phenomenon known as an airburst, releasing energy equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT. The forest was flattened, but what struck him most weren't the trees. It was the stories. The local Evenki people spoke of a great fire spirit descending from the sky, shaking the ground and darkening the air. Their oral traditions became the first human record of a cosmic event in the modern age, passed down not in writing, but in memory. These weren't myths, they were lived experiences, passed down by the people who saw the sky fall. Archaeological surveys later revealed signs of long-term habitation, stone tools, hearths, pottery abandoned shortly after the blast. It seems the explosion didn't just flatten the forest, it displaced the people who lived there. Today, Tunguska is more than a mystery, it's a warning, a reminder that cosmic threats still exist. NASA and other space agencies now actively track near-Earth objects, building strategies to prevent another skyfall. For a world that often feels under control, Tunguska is a humbling reminder we still live beneath an unpredictable sky. And sometimes, myth and science speak the same language, one told in fire, silence, and the memory of trees that never stood again. Long before written history, the sky was humanity's most powerful storyteller. When comets flared, meteors streaked, or fire seemed to fall from the stars, ancient peoples responded the only way they could, with myth. These weren't just stories. They were memory systems, ways to explain the unexplainable and to remember what happened when the sky changed. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, consider hitting that super thanks button. Every contribution helps us keep making deep dive content like this. In ancient India, the Vedic god Agni is described riding a blazing chariot across the sky, his flames purifying the world. Some researchers suggest this may reflect early sightings of meteor storms transposed into sacred imagery. In Babylonian texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh, flaming stones fall from the heavens, perhaps memories of impacts or fireballs now lost to time. In Mesoamerican mythology, the feathered serpent god Quetzalcoatl is linked to Venus, fire, and the heavens. One legend tells of his departure from Earth in a trail of fire and smoke, a description that echoes the arc of a bright comet. Temples like those at Teotihuacan are aligned not just to the sun, but to Venus's cycle, blurring the boundary between ritual and astronomy. In Norse mythology, the twilight of the gods, Ragnarök, begins with the sky splitting open and fire raining down. While mythic in tone, the imagery mirrors what people might have witnessed during meteor storms, auroras, or volcanic eruptions seen against the night sky. What's remarkable is that these stories persist across continents. Different cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, imagined similar skyborne forces, divine, chaotic, and transformative. Today, we view these myths through the lens of science, but they remain powerful because they reflect a deep truth. When the sky changed, people changed with it. And in that shared awe, fear, and wonder, we find the roots of both religion and reason. In the ancient world, astronomy wasn't separated from religion, politics, or power. It was woven into all of them. Those who could track the stars didn't just predict eclipses or solstices. They shaped calendars, guided empires, and claimed authority through the alignment of heaven and earth. In Egypt, the temple complex at Karnak is aligned with the heliacal rising of Sirius, the first appearance of the star just before dawn. This event signaled the flooding of the Nile, the heartbeat of Egyptian agriculture. Temple inscriptions describe this moment not as astronomy, but as divine order returning to the world. The Maya went even further. In cities like Copan and Palenque, rulers were astronomer priests, using knowledge of solar and lunar cycles to time battles, coronations, and sacrifices. Their codices track Venus, eclipses, and equinoxes with stunning precision, tools of both science and statecraft. In the American Southwest, at Chaco Canyon, spiral petroglyphs are pierced by a narrow beam of sunlight only on solstices and equinoxes, the sun dagger. It's not just a marker of time, but a place where cosmic rhythms were made visible in stone. What's astonishing is how advanced these systems were. The Maya calendar accurately tracks solar years to within seconds. Egyptian astronomers measured the stars with plumb lines and shadow clocks. These weren't primitive guesses. They were structured systems of observation, passed down through generations, embedded into temples and rituals. Today, we track data through algorithms, but the principle is the same. Those who understand the patterns, whether in the stars or in spreadsheets, often hold the keys to power. In sacred science, ancient astronomers stood at the intersection of knowledge and belief. And in decoding the sky, they weren't just observing the cosmos, they were shaping civilization itself. From the first flickers of fire in the sky to ancient temples aligned with the stars, humanity has always looked up for meaning, for guidance, for survival. What we've uncovered in this journey is that cosmic events haven't just inspired stories. They've redirected the course of history. They've ended species, sparked new beginnings, and shaped the rise and fall of civilizations. And while ancient peoples didn't know the mechanics of solar flares or the chemistry of comets, they observed, remembered, and responded. They built calendars from starlight, temples aligned with solstices, and myths that carried the memory of celestial encounters across generations. Their world may seem distant, but their instincts feel familiar. Because today, we're still watching the sky. Solar storms threaten our power grids. Asteroid tracking programs work to protect the planet. Climate science increasingly studies the cosmic variables that can push Earth systems toward change. We may use satellites instead of standing stones, but we're asking the same questions. How stable is the world beneath us? And what's waiting above? And some ancient questions may still echo in what we once thought were legends. As promised, here's the fun fact we teased at the beginning. One of the most enduring symbols in Western religion, the Star of Bethlehem, might have been a real astronomical event. Some scholars believe it was a rare planetary conjunction when Jupiter and Saturn appeared unusually close in the night sky in 6 BCE. Babylonian astronomers likely recorded it, and to ancient eyes, it would have looked like a new star suddenly blazing to life. Thank you for joining us on this cosmic journey through time. If you enjoyed this exploration, support Armchair Archaeology by liking the video and subscribing for more journeys into our shared human past. Don't forget to ring the bell and let us know in the comments what ancient mystery we should uncover next. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the flame of curiosity burning bright.